What happened was true. The most bizarre and brutal series of crimes.
The year is 1999, beloved by many as a time of nostalgia that impacted an entire generation. A time when Tamagotchis were debuting, alongside some of the most important video game releases of all time. Futurama just debuted on Fox in the US, and the country is still reeling from the Monica Lewinsky scandal that resulted in the impeachment of the 42nd President of the United States, Bill Clinton. The US was a far different place. No masks, dial-up connection, far different politics. As the world neared a new millennium, the last thing the small city of Columbine, Colorado would have expected to be the site of, at the time, the worst school shooting in US history. On the morning of Tuesday, April 20th, 1999, 2 students from Columbine High School would kill 15 of their classmates and school faculty, sparking a change on the way we look at guns, media, and bullying in schools forever. Klebold was born on September 11, 1981 in Lakewood, Colorado, to Thomas and Susan Klebold. The family was religious and would attend a Lutheran church regularly. Dylan and his older brother Byron would also attend confirmation classes in accordance with their Lutheran faith. The family would also observe certain rituals of the Jewish faith and tradition with the Klebold's maternal grandfather's heritage. Tom Klebold was a geophysicist and his wife Sue worked as a rehabilitation assistant for the handicapped. Both were from Columbus, Ohio, and went to Ohio State University. Sue was the granddaughter of the late philanthropist and construction magnate Leo Yazanoff, who would build the Jewish Community Center in Columbus. Dylan would attend Normandy Elementary School in Littleton, Colorado for the first 2 grades of elementary school. During this time, he would play a variety of sports including t-ball, soccer, and baseball. He was also an active Cub Scout. He then would transfer to Governor's Ranch Elementary and became part of the CHIPS program, or Challenging High Intellectual Potential Students. Despite his gifted intelligence and structured home life, Dylan struggled as time went on, especially transitioning to middle school. He attended Ken Carroll Middle School in Denver, and this is where he would meet Eric Harris through Dylan's childhood friend, Brooks Brown. Eric recently moved into a house near Brooks's. Eric would also introduce Dylan to his friend Nathan Dykeman, and all the 4 boys became close friends. In 1995, all 4 boys moved up to Columbine, when they went into the 9th grade. At Columbine, Dylan was active in the school play productions as a light and sound coordinator, as well as being involved in video productions and Columbine High School's Rebel News Network. He was a computer assistant at the school and helped maintain the school computer server. Eric Harris was born in Wichita, Kansas on April 9, 1981. His parents were Wayne and Catherine Harris. The couple were originally from Colorado, but Wayne was working in the Air Force as a transport pilot, and he had 11 different positions at 6 different bases across varying states, including Ohio, Michigan, and New York. The Harrises moved to New York City just before the forced retirement of Wayne Harris from the Air Force due to financial cutbacks. In July of 1993, the family would move into Littleton, Colorado. Wayne would take a job with the Flight Safety Services Corporation in Inglewood, and Catherine began working at a catering company. After 3 years of renting, the Harrises bought a $180,000 house just south of Columbine High School. In 1995, during his freshman year, Eric met Tiffany Teifer in German class and took her to homecoming. It was their only day, and when she refused to go out with him again, Eric would then stage a fake, suicide. He sprawled all around on the ground with fake blood splashed all over his body. He later then wrote in her yearbook, as well as in Nate Dykman's, Ich bin Gott, or I am God, in German. By 1997, Eric and Dylan were both working at a local pizza place called Blackjack Pizza. This is where they worked with Philip Duran, who graduated from Columbine. Philip would introduce Eric and Dylan to another coworker named Mark Maines. He would later begin to sell the boys guns. Robin Anderson, who was a close friend of Dylan's, would also obtain guns for them, sometime between November and December of 1998. Robin, Eric, and Dylan would go to the Tanner Gun Show in Denver. There, she would purchase 3 guns for the boys, unaware of their true intentions, as they were under the legal age to purchase the guns at the time. She purchased a 9mm Hi-Point 995 carbine, a pump-action shotgun, and a double-barrel shotgun. She was under the assumption the boys wanted them for target practice. They would use them for this, however, but not until nearly 2 years later in March of 1999. In January of 1998, Eric and Dylan were caught breaking into a van and stealing electronics and were arrested. They were sentenced to community service via juvenile diversion. Despite portraying a remorseful image to the courts and his parents, Eric was incredibly angry about this and ranted often in his journals about this event, despite the pair being released early for good behavior. Eric was put into therapy by his mother and prescribed an antidepressant called Luvox. Eric always aspired to join the Marines, however, before the shooting, his application was rejected, and it was likely due to the medication. It has also been theorized that the drug may have influenced behaviors that led to the shooting. This has not been a confirmed source to blame, however, as of 2021, most mass shooters are found to have been prescribed some sort of antidepressant. Friends of the boys told investigators they believed Eric had stopped taking his medication prior to the shooting. However, the theory about the Marines application simply couldn't be true, as Eric actually didn't know that he received that letter. Some people believe that you can see some warning signs on his online rantings. He and Dylan had their computers set up on a network to play Doom together online, though it was Eric who had the strongest web presence, namely on his website RebDoomer. His online rantings began as early as 1996 in the form of hate-filled journal entries, crudely broken up by lyrics from his favorite songs and distasteful jokes. Eric would later turn to keeping his violent thoughts in handwritten journals dating back to April 1998. This was because he threatened his friend Brooks Brown after a falling out. Via that website, and police got involved. According to Brooks in his book, No Easy Answers, The Truth Behind Death at Columbine, he explains the two got into it because Brooks was often late to pick up Eric for school, and Eric would frequently chew him out for it. Brooks told him, seeing as he wasn't getting any gas money for that, Eric should find another ride from now on. As a response, Eric smashed the windshield of Brooks' car with a rock or a chunk of ice. Eric did apologize and all seemed like it would be okay, but then Eric posted Brooks' phone number on his website with various threats and insults. This is when the police stepped in and Eric was forced to rant with pen and paper. In these journals, he kept notes about the doom levels he was creating, but mostly what he wrote about was how much he hated the world. It would be great if God removed all vaccines and warning labels from everything in the world, and let natural selection take its course. All the fat, ugly, retarded, crippled, dumbass, stupid fuckheads in the world would die. And oh fucking well if a few good guys die too. Maybe then the human race can actually be proud of itself. World War II is the last time I bet America was proud of itself. We beat the fuck out of the damn zipperheads and the Nazis. We came back from being bombed and losing major battles to nuke that little piece of shit island and to take over that cool place called Deutschland. I say it's cool because I love the German language. And brute stuff. Kein mein Hart für die Mitleid. Put everyone in Doom 1 and see who can get at least past level 1. Actually then, put them into my worlds, like Thrasher, Whiskey, UAC Labs, and Tyr. I will love to see all of you fuckheads die. NBK, I love it. Sometime in April, me and V will get revenge and kick the natural selection up a few notches. Armed with the following. A terrorist bag full of noisy crickets strapped to WD-40 cans, pipe bombs with a shitload of shrapnel, fire bombs, chlorine gas bombs, smoke bombs, firearms, we aren't sure of what yet. Hopefully V will have his number 3 and plenty of ammo for it. That's another thing. I'll fuck around with some shotgun shells for more bombs also. For me, I don't know what weapon I'll have. I just want a firearm that can hold a lot of bullets and that won't jam on me. So I'll need a lot of clips too. I'll have those strapped to my chest, maybe a bulletproof vest too. We will be all in black, dusters, black army pants, and we will get custom shirts that say RV in the background, in one big letter, and NBK in the front, in a smaller font. We will have knives and blades and backup weaponry all over our bodies. I will have a tattoo of Reb on my right arm. Once we start, we will wear balaclavas. First, we will go to the house of in the morning before school starts, and before anyone is even awake. We go in, and we silently kill each inhabitant, and then pin down. Then take our sweet time pissing on them, spitting on them, and just torturing the hell out of them. Once we are done there, we will set time bombs to burn the houses down, and take any weaponry that we find. Who knows, we may get lucky. Then get totally prepared during a lunch. We go in and park in our spots with sunglasses, and we start carrying in all our bags of terrorism and anarchism shit onto our table. Being very casual and silent about it. It's all for a science band or English project or something. Then we sit down, play some pump-up music, light a $50 Stoge, and get ready to start throwing out the first wave of crickets. Then we light them, and then we throw them as far as we can. Once the first wave starts to go off and the chaos begins, V opens fire and I start lobbing the fire bombs. Then I open fire and V starts lobbing more crickets. Then if we can go upstairs and go into each classroom, we can pick off fuckers at our will. If we still can, we will hijack some awesome car and drive off into the neighborhood of our choice, starting torching houses with Molotov cocktails. By that time, cops will be all over us and we will start to kill them. We'll use bombs, fire bombs, and anything we fucking can to kill and do damage as much as we fucking can. If it comes to that time when we are trapped and absolutely no way out, we eat crickets along with a ton of chlorine or some other deadly gas, so when we die, so will anything else close to us. If we have figured out the art of time bombs beforehand, we will just set hundreds of them around houses, roads, bridges, buildings, and gas stations. Anything that will cause damage and chaos. If you've ever seen the first few clips of violence in Invasion USA, you'll know what I'm talking about. It'll be like the LA riots, or the Oklahoma bombing. World War II, Vietnam, Duke and Doom all mixed together. Maybe we will even start a little rebellion or revolution to fuck things up as much as we can. I want to leave a lasting impression on the world, and god damn it, do not blame anyone else besides me and V for this. Do not blame my family. They had no clue and there's nothing they could have done. They brought me up just fucking fine. Don't blame toy stores or any other stores for selling us ammo, bomb materials, or anything like that because it's not their fault. I don't want no fucking laws on buying fucking PVC pipes. We are kind of a select case here, so don't think this will just happen again. Don't blame the school. Don't fucking put cops all over the place just because we went on a killing spree. Doesn't mean everyone else will, and hardly ever do people bring bombs or guns to school anyway. The admin is doing a fine job as it is, and I don't know who will be left after we kill, but damn it, don't change any policies just because of us. It would be stupid, and if there's any way in this fucked up universe we can come back as ghosts or what the fuck ever, we will haunt the life out of anyone who blames anyone besides me and V. If by some weirdest shit luck, me and V survive and escape, we will move to some island somewhere, or maybe to Mexico, New Zealand, or some exotic place where Americans can't get us. If there isn't such a place, then we will just hijack the hell out of a lot of bombs and crash a plane into New York City, with us inside, firing away as we go down. Just something to cause a little more devastation. Dylan was described by many who knew him to be a follower and believed that Harris had a strong influence on him. Particularly after 1998, he was also described by those who knew him as a young man with no self-confidence and painfully shy. Not everyone would agree with this claim, however, especially while working at Blackjack Pizza, where he and Eric would buy dry ice from the nearby Baskin-Robbins to make bombs behind the store when they were bored. Dylan at one point was written up for bringing a pipe bomb to work. He then quit, but then was rehired again when the store was struggling to keep employees. The pair set fire to aerosol cans at least twice, once in the mop sink and the other time in the pizza oven. This was allowed by their manager at the time. The two were almost always playing with fire, and at one point set the dumpster of Blackjack Pizza on fire, forcing the fire department to put out the blaze. Dylan also did not fit the description of a shy, reserved individual at school either. He would frequently swear at or in front of teachers, and at one point, Eric and Dylan and another student hacked into the school's computer to access locker combinations to threaten someone they deemed their enemy. This got them all suspended. He would also shout Heil Hitler when he bowled a good ball in bowling class. He also spoke passionately about World War II and often would sketch swastikas passively. How much Dylan actually believed in this and supported this is unclear. As a boy raised with Jewish background, while it is distasteful, this sort of rebellious behavior against society and its boundaries is quite common in cases of troubled teens. And so are the interests which seem to push society's boundaries. Eric Harris's websites were a focal point of media fear-mongering. These events shaped a lot of the stigma around video games and extreme music. In 1999, when the shooting took place, the concept of the severity of mental health issues was not nearly as explored. So the media and conservative parents, of course, pointed the finger at everyone but themselves. One site in particular was a Doom 2 WBS-based site, thus the description of graphic and satanic imagery that the media claimed was present was in fact graphics from Doom 1 and 2 that were also found scribbled in his journals. It clearly shows the inflation of stories and misinformation that continues to rampantly dominate the media. One of the most talked about websites is just lyrics to the KMFDM song, Son of a Gun. The boys often used music as a method of expression. They both generally shared an interest in industrial metal and experimental sound. Notable artists that they loved and often quoted were Nine Inch Nails, Rammstein, and KMFDM. In the months prior to the shooting, Eric and Dylan both recorded on video quite a bit as sort of a video diary expressing their hatred for Columbine, their peers, and the world itself. Some of these tapes including the infamous Hitman for Hire video.
Mess with that friggin' kid! If you do, I'll rip off your goddamn head and shove it so far up your friggin' ass, you'll be coughing up dandruff for 4 friggin' months! Look, I don't care what you say. If you ever touch him again, I will frickin' kill you. I'm gonna pull out a goddamn shotgun and blow your damn head off. Do you understand, you little worthless piece of crap? People are always making fun of me. I don't like it. I really don't. It makes me mad. Ooh!
And others that remain unseen by the public eye are known as the basement tapes. There are a few theories as to why these tapes were kept from the media. The reason given by police is the fear of copycat killers. Despite the suppression of the footage, there was indeed copycat shootings as a result of the massacre on April 20th, 1999. The W.R. Myers High School shooting in Taber, Alberta, Canada was the first documented Columbine copycat attack. The gunman, 14-year-old Todd Cameron Smith, reportedly snapped after watching news coverage about the Columbine High School massacre, entered the school with a sawed-off .22 caliber rifle under a dark blue trench coat, and began shooting students, killing one at point-blank range. A study done by ABC in 2014 connected 17 attacks and 36 different plots directly to the 1999 Columbine massacre, as attackers referenced the shooting as inspiration directly. The shooting caused a cultural phenomenon also of idolizing Eric and Dylan and sympathizing with them for them being bullied and finally snapping on the society that broke them. But in fact, this really isn't the case, as the two were generally very socially accepted with the exception of some social cliques. Prominently, the groups the boys referred to as preps and jocks. Another theory on the basement tapes is that it shows how the system had failed Eric and Dylan. They were part of a juvenile correction program and then made videos detailing their plans to commit an act of terrorism with a tour of their massive arsenal. The thought of this timeline is damning for the sheriff's office. The tapes were recorded over a series of weeks, the first being filmed on March 15th of 1999 and the last was filmed on April 20th of 1999, just 30 minutes before the massacre. Eric Harris was granted early release from the JCSO's diversion program on January 20th, 1999. By the time Eric and Dylan recorded the first tape on March 15th, they've assembled nearly their entire arsenal. They infamously film a tour of Eric's room, revealing guns, pipe bombs, crickets, clocks intended for propane bombs, etc., etc. They became two prime examples of the shortcomings from the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office juvenile diversion program. It's widely believed Eric Harris had everyone fooled and manipulated his way into early release. If this were true, however, the forms Eric filled out when entering the diversion program, that he filled out himself, showed that he marked that he struggled with anger, anxiety, authority figures, depression, disorganized thoughts, jealousy, loneliness, mood swings, obsessive thoughts, racing thoughts, stress, suspiciousness, temper, and of course, homicidal thoughts. Arguably, the Hitmen for Hire tape and the Rampart Range tape have more potential to copycat according to some. Regardless, in February of 2015, word surfaced that the unreleased tapes have been approved for destruction by Sheriff Ted Mink of Jefferson County, Colorado in 2011, and an unknown party filed an open records request to view the unreleased tapes. They received a notice that the sheriff's office, quote, no longer had any documents in its possession responsive to their request. Afterward, a spokesperson for the sheriff's office confirmed that the tapes have been destroyed and that no copies are known to exist at all, meaning that the tapes would have been lost forever if this is true. The shooter's parents, as well as many families of the shooter's victims, all supported the suppression and destruction of the tapes. However, the transcripts from Time magazine, who was allowed to view the tapes and brought them to the public's attention in the first place, are easily accessible. And a snippet of the videos was leaked by Daryl Scott, the father of Columbine victim Rachel Scott, on December 20th of 1999, at a press conference for the victims' families.
Two girls sitting next to you, they probably want you to shut the fuck up too. These are some things you'll get with a little fucking crazy shit. You should try to avoid this. You little fucking Christianity, God, you little whores. What I do? I want you to shoot my Christianity. How long is that time you fucking Christian like that asshole?
The Hitmen for Hire video would be what created the mythos for the Trenchcoat Mafia, a school group initially reported by the media to perpetuate violence and is described as a sick goth subculture. It was said that the group admired everything from guns, Nazis, to Marilyn Manson. None of this information would be factual, however. In fact, the Trenchcoat Mafia was really a school community of harmless computer gamers who wore black trench coats, and Dylan and Eric were never members of it. They just admired them and sensationalized the idea. Most of the members graduated long before Eric and Dylan, and they were never in the group's annual photos either. They merely wore trench coats during the massacre. Nathan Dykeman seen Dylan making a purchase behind Blackjack Pizza, paying what he thought was around $300 to Philip Duran. Nate thought Dylan was buying drugs, and being staunchly against drug use himself, Nate drilled into Dylan about it. Dylan told him that he'd been buying a gun, the Tech-9, which Mark Main supplied with Philip's help as a go-between. With the weapons purchased, Eric and Dylan made a video at Rampart Range in March of 1999, where they had practiced shooting the sawed-off shotguns in the Tech-9 with Mark and Mark's friend, Jessica Miklich. A week or so later, Dylan turned in a school report that was so graphically violent that the teacher told his parents about it. Dylan explained that it was just a story, which was accepted easily by his parents. The story was about a lone warrior, clad in a trench coat, who in gory detail stabbed and shot to death a group of what he called, quote-unquote, college preps, then set off bombs to divert the attention of the police. The weekend before the shootings, Eric and Dylan bought 2 propane tanks and other supplies from a hardware store for a few $100s. And on April 17, 1999, Robert Anderson went to the Columbine senior prom with Dylan and Klebold as her date. She boasted to her friends that she really wanted to bring him to the prom, despite Dylan initially not wanting to go. She stated that nothing seemed out of the ordinary that day at all. In the early morning hours of April 20th, 1999, 2 weeks before graduation at Columbine High School, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold would gather their arsenal and prepare to head to Columbine High School to do what they've been planning to do for months. Collectively, they gathered a High Point .995 carbine with 13 10-round magazines, a Savage Springfield 67H pump-action shotgun, an Intratec Tech 9 semi-automatic handgun with 152, 132, and 128 round magazine respectively, and a Stevens 311D double-barreled shotgun. Eric's shotgun was sawed off to around 26 inches and Dylan's was down to 23 inches. Via research on the internet and the Anarchist Cookbook, the boys also made a total of 99 improvised explosive devices and planned to attack Columbine to a T. They taped lighters and matchbooks to their forearms to ignite the explosives as needed. They made pipe bombs, Molotov cocktails, propane bombs, CO2 cartridges filled with gunpowder called crickets, makeshift car bombs, and diversionary bombs. Eric also researched implanting shrapnel in devices to inflict maximum damage. A half an hour before the shooting, they would return to the basement to record the final part of what would be known as merely the basement tapes. On the way out, Eric left a microcassette on the kitchen table. The audio has never been released. Investigators relay what it contained, however, but what they said is you could hear Eric talking about the massacre and that people will die because of him, and that he will be remembered somehow. The tape was titled Nixon by Eric because it was originally used for a class project. Brooks Brown, who was smoking a cigarette outside of Columbine High School during lunch break, saw Eric arrive in the school parking lot. The two have not been on speaking terms since their falling out. They did, however, reconcile before the shooting as Brooks approached Eric near his car and scolded him for missing morning classes. Eric took his education very seriously before. Eric, however, replied that it doesn't matter anymore. And Brooks, I like you. Get out of here now. Go home. This warning made Brooks feel uneasy, so he began leaving the school as Dylan just arrived, each containing a 20-pound propane bomb set to detonate at 11:17 a.m. during A group lunch. The security staff did not see the bags being planted, but they were changing the surveillance tape at 11:14, so they may have missed it. Some internet sleuths claim that the bomb placement can be seen on the surveillance video at around 10:58 a.m. Jefferson County Sheriff's Deputy Neil Gardner was assigned to the high school as a full-time school resource officer. He would normally eat lunch with the students in the cafeteria, but on this particular day, he was eating lunch in his patrol car. 2 backpacks filled with pipe bombs, aerosol containers, and small propane bombs were also placed in a field about 3 miles away, and 2 miles away at a nearby fire station to detonate at 11:14 a.m. These bombs were designed to be diversionary bombs, intended to draw emergency personnel away from the school. Only the pipe bombs and one of the aerosol canisters detonated, causing a small fire which was quickly extinguished by the fire department. It went off when moved. Bomb technicians immediately examined the bombs and relayed to the police at the school the possibility of other devices with motion activators. Meanwhile, Harris and Klebold armed themselves, using straps and webbing to conceal weapons beneath their black trench coats. The cafeteria bombs failed to detonate. Had these bombs exploded with full power, they could have easily killed or severely wounded all of the 488 students in the cafeteria, and possibly made the ceiling collapse by destroying pillars holding it up, dropping the library into the cafeteria. 17-year-old Rachel Scott and her friend Richard Castaldo were having lunch and sitting on the grass next to the west entrance of the school. Dylan threw a pipe bomb suddenly towards the parking lot, which only partially detonated, emitting just smoke. Witnesses, including Rachel and Richard, thought it was purely just a senior prank in poor taste. However, witnesses could recall hearing Eric or Dylan shout "Go, go, go" before they drew their weapons from their trench coats and began shooting. Rachel Scott was the first to die. She was shot 4 times by Eric's carbine, once in the left temple. She died instantly. Castaldo was shot 8 times in the chest, arm, and abdomen. He survived but fell unconscious to the ground and was left paralyzed below the chest. The two then entered the school and Eric fired his carbine down the west stairwell at 3 students. They saw this and thought Eric had a paintball gun, so did not react too much to what they assumed was a prank. Harris fired and shot at Sean Graves, Daniel Rohrbaugh, and Lance Kirkland. They were heading up the stairs with Eric and Dylan perched up above them. Daniel Rohrbaugh was killed instantly. Graves and Kirkland were severely injured. Eric and Dylan then began firing west in the direction of 5 students sitting on the grassy hillside adjacent to the steps on the opposite side of the west entrance of the school. Michael Johnson was shot at in the head, arm, and leg but managed to escape. Mark Taylor was shot in the arms, chest, and leg and fell to the ground where he faked death. The other 3 escaped uninjured. While Eric was still on top of the stairs shooting, Dylan went towards the cafeteria. As Dylan walked down the steps towards the cafeteria, he met Lance Kirkland once again, who was severely injured and weakly calling for help. Dylan kneeled in and said, "Sure, I'll help you," before shooting Lance in the face with a shotgun. Lance would survive this, and Sean Graves was not far away, crawling out of the doorway of the cafeteria's west entrance and collapsed. He rubbed blood on his face and played dead. He was left paralyzed from the waist down as a result of the shooting. Dylan stepped over Graves as he exited the cafeteria. Sean recalls him saying, "Sorry, dude," as he did this. Dylan did enter the cafeteria, but did not shoot several people inside. This is believed to be because he was checking on the propane bombs inside. Eric, who was still shooting students upstairs, severely wounded and partially paralyzed 17-year-old Anne-Marie Hochhalter as she tried to run away. Dylan regrouped with Eric around this time, and they began shooting students who were standing near the soccer field, but were unable to hit anyone. As they walked towards the west entrance, they began throwing pipe bombs, including onto the roof, shouting, "This is awesome. It's what we always wanted to do." At 11:22 a.m., a janitor called Deputy Neil Gardner, the assigned resource officer at Columbine, on the school radio requesting assistance in the senior parking lot. He heard a female was down, possibly from a car accident on his radio. He was just exiting his car 2 minutes later when he heard another voice on his radio say, "Neil, there is a shooter in the school." It was then that Eric began shooting at him 10 times from the west entrance, 60 yards away. As Eric reloaded, Officer Gardner returned fire with his service pistol. He shot 4 times and believed that he hit Eric. He didn't, but regardless, Eric retreated into the school anyway. After firing at least 4 more times but only hitting parked cars, neither Eric Harris or Officer Neil Gardner were hit during this encounter. At this time, Eric had fired 47 rounds and Dylan just 5. As Eric regrouped with Dylan through the west entrance, they began shooting at every student they saw and tossing pipe bombs as they walked along the halls. Dylan shot Stephanie Munson in the ankle, but she was able to escape alive miraculously by walking away. Dylan and Eric then headed towards the library hallway. At this time, at 11:26 a.m., nearby officers began responding to the female down call on the radio. 6 deputies were attempting to rescue 2 wounded students near the soccer field when another gunfight broke out. Eric popped out from the double doors again and began shooting Deputy Gardner, who returned fire. From the hilltop, another deputy shot at Eric, forcing him to retreat inside. No one was hurt in this conflict either, just as the previous one. Inside the school cafeteria, Coach Dave Sanders and 2 custodians, John Curtis and Jay Galatine, initially told students to get under tables, then successfully evacuated students up the staircase leading to the 2nd floor of the school. The stairs were located around the corner from the library hallway in the main south hallway. Sanders then attempted to secure as much of the students as possible. But by this time, Eric and Dylan were in the main hallway. Coach Sanders and another student were at the end of this hallway, and Sanders gestured for students to stay in the library. This is when they encountered Dylan and Eric. The students and Sanders ran the opposite way as fast as possible, but the pair shot at them both. Eric hit Sanders twice, once in the back and once in the neck, hitting his teeth on the exit, but missing the student. The student ran into a science classroom and warned everyone to hide. Dylan then walked over to Sanders, who had collapsed, and tossed a pipe bomb at him. He then returned to Eric up the library hallway. Coach Sanders would crawl and struggle his way towards the science room where student Aaron Hansey will be brought in due to his knowledge in first aid in an attempt to help keep David Sanders alive for hours as police struggled to get to them. Coach Sanders did not survive. As pipe bombs were being tossed into the cafeteria and down the hallway, Patty Nielsen was hiding with students in the library, already on the phone with 911 operators.
Jefferson County 911.
Yes, I am a teacher at Columbine High School. There is a student here with a gun. He has shot out a window. I believe one student shot. I've been Columbine High School. I don't know what's in my shoulder. If it was just the last beat or what.
Okay, has anybody been injured, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the school is in a panic, and I'm in the library. I've got students down under the table, kids. Heads under the table. Kids are screaming. Some of the teachers are, trying to take control of things. We need police here.
Okay, we're getting them there.
Police here.
Who is the student, ma'am?
I do not know who the student is.
Okay.
I saw a student outside. I was in holding. Oh, dear God. Okay. I was on holding. I saw a gun. I said, what's going on out there? And he said, oh, it's probably some video production. It's probably a joke. I said, well, I don't think that's a good idea. And I went walking outside. I think he was down to see what was going on. He turned the gun straight at us and shot. And my God, the window went out. And the kid standing there with me, I think he got hit.
Okay.
Something in my shoulder.
Okay. We've got help on the way, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Stay on the line with me.
Oh, God. Kids, just stay down.
Do we know where he's at?
I'm sorry?
Do we know where he's at?
Okay. I'm in the library. He's upstairs. He's right outside of here.
He's outside?
He's outside of this hall.
Outside of a hall or outside?
In the hall.
Okay.
There are alarms and things going off now. Smoke. My God, smoke is like coming into this room.
Okay.
I've got the kids under the table here. I don't know what's happening in the rest of the building. There's also got smoke in the building. I don't know. I'm sure someone has to be calling 911 besides
Yes,
me.
we've got a lot of people on. Okay. I just want you to stay in the line with me. We need to know what's going on.
Okay.
Okay?
I am on the floor.
Okay. And you've got the kids
in the
there?
library. And I've got every student in this library on the floor. You better stay on the floor.
Is there any way you can lock the doors?
Smoke is coming in from out there, and I'm a little afraid. The gun is right outside the library door, okay? I don't think I'm going to go out there. Okay, you're at Columbine High School? I got 3 children. Okay, we got it. Okay? I'm not going to go to the door to shut the door, okay? I've got the kids on the floor. I got all the kids in the library on the floor.
We have paramedics, we have fire, and we have police en route, okay, sir?
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
I don't know. I can't believe he's not out of bullets. He just keeps shooting and shooting and shooting.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a police officer on scene.
I thought it was.
Okay, just try and keep the kids in the library calm.
Yeah.
Is there any way you can block the door so no one can get in?
I do not.
Okay.
I guess I can try to go, but he's right outside that door. I'm afraid to go to the door.
That's okay.
That's where he is. I'm not afraid to go there. Okay.
That's okay.
Okay, I told the kids to get on the floor. I told them to get under the table. All of the children are on the floor under the table. Yeah, they're all under the tables.
Okay.
And
as long as we can just try and keep...
No one's saying a word.
Okay, as long as we can keep everyone there as calm as we can.
I hear some yelling out there going on right now.
Yeah, we've got alarms going off now as well.
Yeah, there's alarms. This room is filled with smoke.
Okay.
Okay.
Keep everyone low to the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone's up. Okay. Everyone stay on the floor. Stay on the floor. Stay under the table.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, I know, just...
I don't know. I didn't... I said, what is that kid got? He was outside at the time. And I was on call duty. Oh, God. He's trying, he's like, woo, woo, woo.
I know.
Things are being shut off. I do not know who the student was. I don't even think I saw him. He was wearing black. He didn't look very large. Male student. He was out there shooting. It looked like he was playing out and shooting. And somebody, I said, what is that? I said, what's going on out there? This Wirecap gun. It's probably for video production. You know, they do these videos.
Right.
And the kids, they say, well, that's not, a play gun, a real gun. I was going out there to say no. And I went, oh my God, that was really close. That was
okay. What's your name, ma'am?
My name is Patty.
Patty?
He's yelling everybody get up right now. Please go to the library. He's saying everybody get up right now.
Okay.
Please don't hold on. I have him in the library shooting at students to the lady that I have in the library on the phone.
Okay, try and keep as many people down as we can. Okay. Do you know who he is? Okay.
You can hear the explosions and as the shooters enter the room, but the remaining 16 minutes or so of audio has never been fully released. Possibly due to the brutality and the recorded killings of students, but a transcript is available. With 52 students, 2 librarians, and 2 teachers inside, Dylan and Eric enter the library. Eric then shot at a desk near student Evan Todd, who was standing near a pillar when the shooters entered the library. He had just taken cover behind a copier. Todd was hit by wood splinters in the eye and lower back, but otherwise he wasn't injured. Dylan and Eric then walked towards a row of computers. Sitting at the north row was disabled student Kyle Velasquez. Dylan fired a shotgun, shooting him in the head and the back, killing him. Then at the lower row of computers, they reloaded their weapons and began sweeping the room. They then shouted for everybody to get up, claiming the library was going to explode. It was then that one of the boys said, "Anybody with a white hat or a sports emblem on is dead." A white sports hat was a tradition among sports team members at Columbine High School. Many students began trying to hide their hats and nobody stood up. After firing at the police from a nearby window, Dylan removed his trench coat and shot a nearby desk, injuring Patrick Ireland, Daniel Steepleton, and McKay Hall. Dylan then walked towards the lower row of computer desks with his shotgun and fired a single shot under the desk while kneeling, hitting 14-year-old Stephen Kernow in the neck, killing him. He then turned and shot 17-year-old Casey Rucksager. The shot went straight through her shoulder and grazed a major artery in her neck. She naturally dropped to the floor and began gasping and writhing in pain. Dylan just looked at her and shouted for her to quit her bitching. Then Eric walked to a table south of the lower computer tables. There were 2 students hidden underneath, Casey Bernal and Emily Wyant. He slapped his hand hard to the top of it and yelled, "Peekaboo," before shooting Casey Bernal in the head, killing her. He was holding the shotgun with one hand, so the resulting recoil kicked the gun into his nose and breaking it. He relayed this to Dylan, who scolded him angrily, asking why he did that. Eric then turned his attention to Brie Pasquale, who was sitting near a desk rather than under it. With blood pouring from his nose, he asked her if she wanted to die, to which she replied with pleading for her life. Eric laughed at her and said, "Everyone's gonna die." Dylan told him to shoot her, but Eric didn't. He said because they planned to blow up the school anyway. This was when Dylan noticed Patrick Ireland trying to help McKay Hall. He was shot in the knee. Patrick's head was just barely above the desk as he did this. Dylan noticed this and shot him twice in the head and once in the foot. Somehow Patrick survived, but regardless he was knocked unconscious. Dylan then walked to another table where he discovered 18-year-old Isaiah Scholes, 16-year-old Matthew Kechter, and 16-year-old brother of Rachel Scott, Craig Scott, hiding underneath it. He called to Eric that he found a and tried to pull Isaiah out by his feet. Eric did turn and join in on taunting Isaiah, berating him with racial insults before both gunmen shot underneath the desk at the same time. Eric shot Isaiah in the chest, killing him. Dylan shot Matthew Kechter in the chest, and he was also killed. Though Isaiah was not shot in the head, Dylan said, "I didn't know black brains could fly that far." Perhaps the amount of gore and flesh splattering around them confused him. Naturally, a shotgun blast at close range would do massive amount of damage to a human body. Meanwhile, Craig Scott was left uninjured, lying in a pool of his friend's blood. He was feigning death when Eric yelled, "Who's ready to die next?" Eric then turned and threw a cricket at the table where Hall, Steepleton, and Ireland were located. It landed on Steepleton's thigh, and Hall quickly noticed this and tossed it behind them. The cricket exploded in midair. Eric then attempted to topple a bookcase but was unable to, so he started shooting at the books as they fell instead. Dylan then walked to the east area of the library, and Eric walked from the bookcase to meet Dylan, but just shot the display case near the door. Then, they turned and shot towards the closest table, hitting and injuring 17-year-old Mark Kintgen. He was shot in the head and the shoulder, and then turned toward the table to his left and fired, injuring 18-year-old Lisa Krautz, Lauren Townsend, and Valen Schnurr with the same shotgun blast. Klebold then turned towards the same table and fired several shots with a Tec-9, killing Townsend.
It looked like he was climbing out and shooting him. Somebody, I said, what is that? I said, what's going on with this? It's not a tap gun. It's probably for video production. You know, they do these video productions. And the kids, they said, well, that's not, you know, a play gun, a real gun. I was going out there to say no. And I went, oh my God, that was really close. That just rattled me.
Okay.
I'm really
What's your name, ma'am?
My name is Patty.
Patty?
She's yelling everybody get up right now. Please go to the library. She's screaming everybody get up right now.
Okay.
Please don't hold on. I have him in the library shooting at students to the lady that I have in the library on the phone.
Okay, try and keep as many people down as we can. Okay. Do you know who he is? Okay.
Because that's the kids getting killed.
Eric walked to another table where two girls were hiding. He bent down to look at them and merely dismissed them, muttering under his breath that they were pathetic. He then moved to another table where he fired twice, injuring 16-year-old Nicole Nolan and John Tomlin. Tomlin moved out from under the table, and as he did, Dylan shot him repeatedly, killing him. Eric then walked back over to the other side of the table where Townsend lay dead. Behind the table, 16-year-old Kelly Fleming had, just like Brie Pasquale, sat next to the table rather than under it. Harris shot Fleming with his shotgun, hitting her in the back, killing her. He shot at the table behind Fleming, hitting Townsend, who was already dead, Krautz again, and wounding 18-year-old Gianna Park. The shooters moved to the center of the library, where they had reloaded their weapons on a table. Eric pointed his carbine under the table, and as a student moved out from under it wearing a white cap, Eric told him to identify himself. So he did. And it was John Savage, an acquaintance of Dylan's. He asked Dylan, what were they doing? To which Dylan merely shrugged and softly answered, killing people. Savage asked if they were going to kill him, possibly because of the loud fire alarm going off. Maybe he didn't hear him, but Klebold said, what? Savage asked again whether they were going to kill him. Dylan Klebold said no, and told him to run. John Savage fled, escaping through the library's main entrance. Eric then turned and fired his carbine at the table directly north of where he had been, hitting the hand and ear of 15-year-old Daniel Mauser. Daniel reacted by either shoving a chair at Harris or grabbing at his legs. Eric fired again, hitting Mauser in the center of his face at close range, killing him instantly. They injured 2 more people and killed another, 17-year-old Corey DePuter. They had killed 10 people and injured 12 in the library alone. At this point, Dylan mentioned beginning to stab people, but despite this, Dylan nor Eric ever used their knives in this attack on the high school. Eric and Dylan leave the library and begin heading towards the science area of the school. They shot into random science classrooms, and they were captured on the school security cameras at 11:44, re-entering the cafeteria. The video shows Eric kneeling on the landing and firing a single shot towards one of the propane bombs that they left in the cafeteria earlier, in an unsuccessful attempt to detonate it. Dylan then examines the propane tank as Eric takes a drink from a leftover cup on the nearby table. Then, Dylan throws a Molotov cocktail at the propane tank in hopes of igniting it and making it explode. However, the gallon of fuel near it merely ignited. This fire was extinguished by the sprinkler system, and then the boys left the cafeteria at 11:46 a.m. After leaving the cafeteria, they then returned to the main north and south hallways of the school and fired several shots into walls and ceilings and at students and teachers hid in rooms. They walked through the south hallway into the main office before returning to the north hallway. At 11:56, they returned to the cafeteria and briefly entered the school kitchen. Then, they returned up the staircase into the south hallway at 12 p.m. It was like they were wandering around the school almost aimlessly at this point, unsure of what to do next. No one could really understand but them what was going through their heads at the time, why they did this, if they felt remorse. Eric's previous journal entry was actually about this event. In fact, it was written exactly 2 years prior to the event. The V mentioned in the journal was actually Dylan. His username on most websites and other media was Vodka. In those journal entries, Eric mentioned in the end they would die, but if they somehow miraculously survived, they would go somewhere else, like Mexico or an island. So on a real level, on a logical level, because they were far from stupid, they knew that they would die. They did this and planned for over 2 years. They planned their own deaths. They planned the deaths of over 400 people. They again entered the library, which was now empty besides Patrick Ireland, who was unconscious, and Lisa Krautz, who was severely injured. At 12:02 p.m., they began shooting at the police from the window again, who also returned fire, but once again, no one was hurt in the exchange. Eric would sit with his back against a bookshelf and put his shotgun to the roof of his mouth and pull the trigger. Dylan got on his knees with his Tech 9 to his left temple and pulled the trigger. It was noted by police at 12:08 p.m. all fires ceased. This was because both boys were dead. Eric was 18 years old, and Dylan was 17 years old. 15 people, including Eric and Dylan, died, and 24 people were injured. The media blamed everything from Satanism to music to the mythical trenchcoat mafia. But no one wanted to listen to them. No one paid attention to the signs that were clearly there. There was something wrong. There was something very wrong. In fact, as early as 2004, the FBI did a profile on Eric Harris and determined that he was clinically a psychopath. This does feed into the theory that he had a part in manipulating Dylan. However, Dylan did act on his own accord as well. Both boys clearly suffer from some form of mental illness. They of course had their conflicts and personal struggles. They were very depressed. Eric Harris himself, given that he checked off many different problems, many different red flags, yet was ignored. That is exactly what's wrong with this. Even at the time of this recording in 2021, mental health awareness and other issues regarding mental health are still barely just coming to the surface and being recognized by society as a whole. Depression can be a silent killer. Say depression hurts everyone around you. The attack on Columbine High School would forever change the way the United States handles the media, talk of guns, music, and other issues in schools, such as bullying. A lot of factors and theories came into play with the Columbine massacre, and the biggest question asked was why. We all have our theories, but no clear answer has been ever given.